Hi, fourth graders. So this is the second lesson in your book clubs. So if you've not watched the Read Aloud Chapter 2 of Number the Stars, you need to go do that before you watch this video. If you've already watched that video, then you're in the right spot. So we're going to get started on lesson number 2 for your book clubs. So today we're going to be talking a little bit more about the purpose of these book clubs. So all of these book club books are historical fiction books. And so that means, let me pull up here. Okay, so here's historical fiction is a story with fictional characters, right? There's that fiction part of it. So the characters in your story, most of them probably did not really exist. And it is set in a real time in history. So Denmark being invaded by Germany really did happen in history. World War II was a real thing, but the characters in our book, Anne-Marie and Ellen and Kirsty and their moms, most likely did not really exist during that time. They're not real people, but the events in it are things that could have happened to real people. Another example of this would be Liberty Kids, the Liberty Kids videos that you watched, because some of those characters were not real people. Some of them were, like Benjamin Franklin really was around during the American Revolution. But some of the kids like Moses and Henri and Sarah, those people were not really there for the American Revolution. So all of your stories have some kind of real historical event in them, all right? So our learning target today is to figure out the timelines in our books. So all of your books have 2 timelines in them. Here's the characters timeline is one of them. So the main characters in your book have a timeline of their life and what's happening to them. For example, in Number the Stars, Lisa's engaged, then she dies, then Anne-Marie and Ellen run into those soldiers. So that's the timeline of those characters. But then there's the real events that actually happened in history during that time. So during World War II, the Germans arrive in Denmark. There was a resistance to them. And so those timelines really did happen. And they kind of overlap in the book. Those 2 timelines are put together to create the story. So today you're going to be looking at those 2 different timelines in your book and filling out the page in your packet that goes along with today's lesson. Okay, so when you find the page in your packet for Book Club Day 2, the first question it asks is, what is the historical event in your book? So in reading Number the Stars, we know that the event that is happening is World War II. That's the real true thing that's happening in your book that actually happened in history. So we know that World War II really happened and Germany invading Denmark. So that's the event that our book is about. So that's the first timeline, the real timeline of what happened in history. Okay, so I have answered this question. I've answered it in a complete sentence. It says the historical event in Number the Stars is Germany and the Nazi soldiers invading Denmark in World War II. King Christian X was the king of Denmark. So I did include that because I know that that actually happened in history, that King Christian X was the real king of Denmark. If there's an event in your book that you're unsure if it actually happened or not, that would be a great thing to write down anyways, and it'll be a good discussion for your book club when you meet on Friday. And you can fix your answer then to include all of the real events that you learn about that day. The second question for your book club book today is, how does this event affect the main character in your book? So when I think about this, I'm thinking about Anne-Marie and Ellen's lives and what is different about their lives because of World War II and the invasion of Denmark. So normal little girls living today probably are not going to be running down the street and run into soldiers from a different country who are telling them to rush home. So that event right there is one example of how their lives are affected by the war. I'm also thinking back to those pink cupcakes that Kirsty was talking about at the end of chapter 1. So one of the things that the mom had said was that there had not been things to make cupcakes like sugar or butter in Denmark for a really long time since they were invaded. And so I'm thinking that that's probably because of the soldiers. So, I mean, that's a little upsetting to me because I know that I would not want to live somewhere where I could not have pink cupcakes. So that's a really important way that their lives were affected by the event in this book, World War II. So I've answered this question now, also in complete sentences. And I said the invasion of Denmark by Germany affects Anne-Marie and Ellen because they have to be careful on the streets when they run into German soldiers so that they do not get in trouble. Their families are also affected because they are not able to have cooking supplies for food that they would normally make if these soldiers were not there. such as cupcakes. That got cut off. I had a little bit of a hard time fitting this all on the line, so if you do too, just right below the lines, make your own rules. All right, there we go. So such as cupcakes, all right? So when you're answering, make sure that you are also using complete sentences. Try to think of 2 ways, like I did, that their lives were affected by the event in the book. If you can only think of one, though, that's okay. Again, we'll talk about it in your book clubs on Friday when we meet. All right, so now that you know what your job is today, you're going to go read the assigned pages from your Bright Green schedule that went home in your learning packet for your book club book. You're going to read those, and you're going to remember that what we're thinking about today, our learning target, was figuring out those 2 timelines in our book, the main character's timeline and the historical timeline. So the things that really happened in history and the things that are only happening in the book in your characters' lives, right? So good luck with that, and we are excited to see you all in your book clubs on Friday. Bye.